Right, welcome on the channel podcast with Owl. It's been confirmed the first African team to be eliminated from the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And of course, unfortunately, it happened to be not any team but Tunisia, the ever-present team. Most of the times, they seem to be one of the countries representing Africa. Stepping on the global stage in 1978, that was the maiden appearance in the history of the FIFA World Cup by becoming the first African team to win a game at the World Cup. But unfortunately, the Carthage Eagles have never gone beyond the group stages in the history of the World Cup. From 1978, they missed out on the subsequent ones till 1998 in France. They missed out in 1982 in Spain, in 1986 in Mexico. They missed out in Italy in 1994 in the USA. And of course, they were back in 1998. And they played in 1998. Then, of course, Japan, Korea 2002, and Germany 2006. After Germany in 2006, they laid back in the next two World Cup tournaments, and that was South Africa 2010, and we're going to talk about Brazil 2014 when they missed out. And after missing out on those two occasions, they came back in Russia 2018, Qatar 2022, and the current ongoing World Cup in 2026. So Tunisia has most often been present when it comes to African contingent at the World Cup. But the real issue is, how do they navigate their way through and progress beyond the group stages? It was quite a disappointing one when they lost by 4-0 against Japan. And in the first game against Sweden, they lost by 5-1, and that was the match that resulted in the sacking of coach Sabri Lanucci. And of course, Hervé Renard, two-time African Cup champion, was appointed to take charge for the rest of the two games in the competition. In his first game, he saw a baptism of fire, and that was the game against the informed Japanese side. You might talk about the fact that Japan does not progress to reach the semi-finals, the quarterfinals, but they always give you the vibe in the World Cup. If you remember what they did in 2018 in Russia, brilliant performances. Unfortunately, losing out against Belgium in the round of 16 encounter, even after going up by 2-0 in that game. And in the last World Cup, they had a marvelous performance, topping a group that included Spain and Germany, and of course Costa Rica, progressing beyond the group stages, only to lose to Croatia in the round of 16 in the post-match penalties. And in this World Cup, they gave the Netherlands a hell out of their time, and they give the Dutch team a good run for their money. Even in the absence of three key stars who were supposed to add a lot of quality within the setup, the likes of Kaoru Mitoma, the likes of Wataru Endo, and of course Takumi Minamino. All these guys are missing. But the likes of Ayase Ueda of Feyenoord, Daichi Kamada of Crystal Palace, Ao Tanaka of Leeds United. You want to talk about Junior Ito of Genk, and former Arsenal defender Tomiyasu. All these guys are still around, and they still give him creditable performance. They put the nail on the coffin of the Tunisians. 4-0, absolutely a magnificent result, and that takes Tunisia out of the competition. So Tunisia have joined the Turkish team that have been booted out of the competition so far. So far, we've seen two countries that have been eliminated even without playing the last game. So Tunisia says goodbye to the 2026 FIFA World Cup, even without playing the last group game that they're going to see against the Dutch team, the Holland team. And it was quite unfortunate. It came along an African team in the shape of the Carthage Eagles of Tunisia. So Tunisia becomes the first African team to be eliminated in the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And another disappointing run on the part of the Les Éléphants de la Côte d'Ivoire. And they had their chances of burying the German side. And Coach MS Faye started with a very positive lineup. For me, I think making some 5 changes, introducing Odilon Kosunu to add up to Emmanuel Agbadou at the back line, then shifted Winfred Singo to the right back was quite a good one in terms of how he plays his team. And of course, bringing on board Christ Ulai Inau to add up to the double pivot midfield that included Frank Yanikesi, and then of course Ibrahim Asangari, who also came to replace Sekou Fofana from the first game in that order. And we saw Amad Diallo, who was the match goal hero in that game against Ecuador, replacing Bazumana Toure in the lineup. And then Angie Yuan Boni, the Inter Milan striker, who switched his nationality from France to join the Ivory Coast prior to this World Cup, also starting ahead of Elias Wahid in that game against Germany. And in the first half, Jan Diomande was given a whole lot of trouble to Joshua Kimmich at the right back of the German side. And it was quite clear that Joshua Kimmich was finding it difficult to hard attack on Jan Diomande, and he was giving the German team a whole lot of troubles, making a lot of pull-ups, confusing Jonathan Tah and Nico Schlotterbeck alongside the goalkeeper, Manuel Neuer. And the Ivorians struck first. Frank Yanikesi struck after a movement from Jan Diomande from a rebound, and that ensured that the Ivory Coast were leading. Even though in the second half, the German coach made some couple of changes. Bringing on the likes of Dennis Undav, the two-goal hero, and then Jamie Llewellyn also came and brought some couple of changes within the German setup, and they kept on piling up the pressure, having the equalizer. Even after having the equalizer, the Ivorians had a clear-cut chance, and that was when Nicolas Pepe made that surging run to give the pass to Simon Adingra. I wonder what Simon Adingra was thinking around that time. This was just a one-time taking, because at that time, when Nicolas Pepe took the ball to the German team, he just drifted his way, gave you the pass. You just need the connections. Just one touch. It would have been a second goal for the Ivorians. But unfortunately, after Simon Adingra failed to take that chance, the German team punished them. And that was how Dennis Undav scored the second goal in the game. And unfortunately, the Ivorians, with 3 points in their hands, came to 1 point, and in just within the space of few minutes to the end of the game, completely lost those 3 points and the 1 point that was in their hand, and then handled up the 3 points to the German side. So Ivory Coast will need to face off against Curacao. They just need a draw to secure their spot into the next stage of the competitions, which is quite positive. Facing Curacao, the weakest team within the group, you should be confident enough to get a good result. Even though Curacao drew goalless against Ecuador, a match that a lot of people thought that Ecuador were going to run riot for Curacao, but they came with different ideas and made sure they drew against Ecuador. So Ivory Coast still have their chance, or they have their destiny in their own hands. So they just need to draw, just avoid defeat. And they have what it takes to beat Curacao and make it into the next stage of competition. And that becomes quite a historic feat. And this group of Ivorian team will become the first Ivory Coast side to have ever gone beyond the group stages in the history of the World Cup. Because in their first appearance in 2006 against Germany, they failed to go beyond the group stage. In 2010, the same thing happened in South Africa. And of course, we saw what happened in Brazil in 2014 when they made their third appearance. This is their fourth Ivorian appearance in the World Cup. So I think they should be good to go in that game against Curacao. Just to avoid defeat in the last game against Curacao should be good enough to see MS Faye and his charges making it into the next stage of the competition, which is going to be quite historic on the part of this current group of Elephants players who are playing for Ivory Coast. It was quite unfortunate that those two African teams let us down, especially Ivory Coast, when they had that chances to beat the German side. Germany has lost only once to an African side in the history of the World Cup, and that was the 1982 defeat to Algeria. So I thought maybe Cote d'Ivoire should have inflicted upon them their second defeat from an African side, but unfortunately, they failed and they let the Germans to take up the chances, and then the German team made sure they came from one goal down to win the game. And the German team becomes the second team within this competition to have gone down and then come back to win a game. After Korea did it against Czech Republic in the first round of group games, they came back from a goal down and they won the game by 2-1. The same team also happens to Germany when they came from a goal down. Interestingly, they've been Kosindi. So I felt that the Ivorian team were definitely going to score. But the thing is how to hold up to the lead. And that was where the Ivorians failed the test. But they still have the chance to make it into the next stage of the competition. This has been the podcast channel with our. Thank you.